Here on The Colour of Country Life, we're speaking with Craig Bowyer. He's on his way to court. Craig, why are you going to court?
I'm going because I'm one of the people who's going to represent unemployed teachers, nurses, police, firemen, health workers, because they didn't want the vaccine, and as a result, we were asked to leave our place of employment.
Right, so Craig, I've got Hannah Phillips with me as well. This is over vaccination. What's your particular objection to getting a COVID-19 vaccination?
Well, I think the main reason why we're all going to court as litigants is because we believe in free choice. All of us have been vaccinated, so we're not anti-vaxxers, so we really reject that notion that we're radical anti-vaxxers. We just don't want this current untested vaccine, call it a vaccine, and we want the right to basically have free choice and not to lose our jobs because we didn't want the vaccine. So that's probably why we're all there.
Right. So, Craig, when it comes to going to court today, what are you there to do? Are you trying to get the mandates lifted? Are you trying to get teachers to be able to go back to their jobs, and nurses and fireys and police to be able to go back into their jobs? Or are you looking for exemptions for those who are in the case at the moment?
If we were living in America, there's things like religious exemptions and so on. It's a totally different legal system over there. But I think we want, we can't see that, for instance, as a teacher, last year when COVID was around, we were allowed to teach until a man-made date, the 10th of December. And so we were told that children are safe, that teachers are safe unless they've got predisposed conditions, heart issues, something like that. Unless they've got an issue, teachers and students were okay with COVID. It was only the old people who had a heart condition. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the vaccines were rolled out, all of a sudden we were no longer safe to teach. And then now that we've gone, there's no one to represent a different point of view, and so now they're going for the children in the classrooms who a year ago weren't any concern. And so we believe that we've been unfairly targeted. The nurses, same thing, they were the front line. They were doing all the hard work before the vaccine was rolled out. It was okay for them to take a hit to be subject to COVID. And then as soon as the vaccine came out, they were all sacked. And a lot of the nurses that I know, every nurse I know, the reason why they were prepared to lose their job because of their desire not to get the vaccine was actually because they'd seen so many people affected by the vaccine that they weren't prepared to take it themselves. So AMBOs, police, they've seen too much.
Are you seeking an injunction so people can return to work, or is it seeking compensation? What's your claim against the government?
The starting point is basically the overreach of the government, essentially Grant Stevens and Nicholas Spurrier, but basically that what they, if you look at their brief and what they purport to do and the Emergency Act and so on, they've actually overreached on so many levels what they're meant to actually be doing for the good of the people of South Australia. And the other interesting thing is South Australia is the only state where it's actually a police commissioner who's actually making the call in this. All the other states have different, whether it's a medical or other people. So it's quite unique, and we believe that if you look at what their roles are, by causing people to lose their employment with unfounded vaccines and unfounded proof, even you look at the Australian Bureau of Statistics released yesterday, and the number of people who have died in the whole of Australia in 18 months is 2,600. And you think about all the other issues that have been imposed on the people of Australia, for the deaths of fewer people than die of basically the flu. And so you've got to ask yourself, is there overreach? And have all the nurses, we talk about shortage of nurses, shortage of fire brigade, you have a look in the papers now, and every area is lacking workers. They can't find enough workers because they've created a domino. You lose a few teachers in this school, they go to that school, they go to that school. And the dominoes flying around, they can't get enough people to work in NDIS, all the NDIS people working with disabled that it won't get the jab now can't be replaced. So we've got now disabled people, their care can't be replaced. So, yeah, we believe it's an overreach that's actually having more impact and more harm to people than actually the good it's doing.
Now, Craig, just lastly, how many plaintiffs are in your action? You say you're seeking to represent not just teachers but a host of others. How many are part of is it a class action? How many people are with you suing or taking action against the government?
We're essentially, I suppose, a case study. There are 2 fire brigades that were recently stood down 2 weeks ago. We got 2 nurses, including fairly high-profile ex-Crows female nurse and footballer. We've got aged care worker. We've got myself teaching, and 2 policemen. So we represent a massive sector that until basically late last year, we're taking a hit for the state with COVID. And it's not a class action. It's a case so that if this gets up, answering your second part of your question, yeah, I think there will be some serious financial recompense because that's when the class actions will kick in.
Well, we've actually talked about on Flow after a tourism operator spoke with us about losing $180,000 when the Western Australian government extended its border closure, that there needs to be a pandemic redress scheme for people who've suffered financial harm from overreach by governments. Is that something you think might be necessary, not just in SA but across the nation?
You'd like to think so, but I don't think the premiers are going to ride in on a white horse saving all of those who've been sacked by that very system. So a lot of us are looking to basically challenge the current system, but we're actually looking at a parallel community. So if the system that's in place isn't listening to the people who are essentially our taxes are paying these people to run against us, if the system's not going to support us and listen to us, we've got to start thinking about an alternative system. It's the only answer. So, you know, as people are starting to realise, as people are starting to know people whose family have basically got sick and died, penny's starting to fall about, okay, maybe we were deceived.
Craig, it's a big case and it's something very important for many workers across our nation, and it probably will set a precedent for what happens and how it's handled across Australia. Thank you for your time today.